Hey everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast from Backlog Banter where we review every single Palme d'Or winner in random order, and I'm not sure how this movie won Palme d'Or, but it did. We're talking about Union Pacific, 1939, Golden Age of Hollywood, Cecil B. DeMille, starring Barbara Stanwyck, Joe McCrea, Akeem Tamarov. We got ourselves a great big train movie. I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. This is a film very near and dear to my heart because of its A, relation to California's state history, B, relation to the end of the Civil War, C, relation to the creation of the greatest train in the world, the Transcontinental Railroad. I'm really off to a roll here. Thank you for joining me, my lovely friends. I can't wait to get started on talking about this film. But before we do so, I do want to remind you of what we did last time because it was a little while ago, but we talked about the Italian movie, The Tree of Wooden Clogs, slice of life, slow, but we had a very interesting discussion that also rambled on for quite some time. So if you are curious about what a peasant's life in the late 1800s in northern Italy might be like, I would highly recommend checking that review out. And if you want to know what the golden age of cinema thought about westward expansion, stick around right here because that's what we are discussing today. Quickly now, I hand it over to Abram to go to the proverbial mail bag, to the mail carriage, and find out what the community has to say if they are sending any messages up the telegraph lines.
Yes, I'm going to do a little grab bag of comments here because we had a couple comments on the Tree of Wooden Clogs. None too robust here, so I figured I'd just shout out a couple people. I want to shout out 1317 TM for saying that the Tree of Wooden Clogs is on their watch list.
Amazing.
I want to shout out John Tor 11 for giving us another 1978 recommendation, this time Midnight Express.
That sounds kind of trainy. Express?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Stays with him quite a bit when he revisits 70s and 80s movies. And then I also want to shout out here, maybe we can linger here for a moment, at SlimNave 4846.
Do you have to let it linger?
You will want to. You will want to. SlimNave says, okay. ... How many wooden clogs are we talking here?
That's all.
I mean, truly just one.
He does only make one, yeah.
He makes one out of the tree, but there's a lot of wooden clogs in the movie. I think that there is a near innumerable amount of wooden clogs in the movie.
Tree of wooden clogs, though. I don't think it's ever accurate, though.
Do wooden clogs grow from trees?
The tree begat a wooden clog.
This is not as good of a title, though.
Well, I think it's translated.
Remember,
so make the original in Italian. It is the tree that produces wooden clogs.
I like the tree that begat wooden clog. I think we need to.
Yeah, so the tree that begat wooden clogs. Yes.
Jesus Christ! Let's talk about a train.
Union Pacific. Tanner, would you do us a favor? I kind of want to deviate just slightly from our normal plot description and then rolling right into it because this is a very early film. I thought we didn't even go this early in the Palme d'Or. So first, tell us what's in the movie and then go back, do a little history lesson for the beginning, the early years of Cannes so that we really have a good picture for what our atmosphere was and why they even picked this very typical American movie to be the first winner ever, maybe, or correct me if I'm wrong?
Yes. I tried to scrounge up as much information as I could on this, and then decided to sort of try and pare it down to a pithy sort of story. So it's 1939, gentlemen.
The swinging
Cannes
30s.
Film Festival is about to kick off in earnest. Okay, all sorts of major celebrities of the time have rolled into Cannes in France. That's right. The apparently MGM purchased like some giant yacht for all these stars to stay on in like the month leading up to the festival and everything. Yeah, exactly. But as fate would have it, and let me get my my exact dates right here. Oh, by the way, just a couple of those stars on that mega yacht that I mentioned. Just for any of you old head cinephiles out there, Tyrone Power, Gary Cooper, Douglas Fairbanks, George Raft, Paul Muni.
Paul Muni. Friend of the show, Paul Muni. Star of the Life of Emile Zola.
Oh, sure. Norma Shearer and Mae West were all in town for the first Cannes Film Festival, which was scheduled to begin on September 1st, 1939. On August 23rd, 1939, the German-Soviet Pact was signed, which caused many of these Cannes attendees, including the aforementioned celebrities, to flee town because, hey, wouldn't you know it, war was a brewing. But they'd still plan for the festival to, carry on as planned. Several nations backed out of representation at the Cannes Film Festival at the time. But on the day that it was scheduled to begin, September 1st, 1939, any World War II heads out there willing to tell me, able to tell me what major event occurred on September 1st, 1939?
Anschluss?
You're gonna have to translate that for me, Timo, but I'm sure you know.
The invasion of Austria or the invasion of Poland?
Poland.
Yes.
Germany invaded
Anschluss.
Poland on September 1st, 1939.
Indeed, Anschluss.
Which began World War II in many ways, for many historians. So,
as the
Cannes Film
the
Festival
soundtrack of
did
this
not happen. There was one screening of a film. Apparently, The Hunchback of Notre Dame received was the only film that received a private screening, technically. And so, the Cannes Film Festival did not begin until World War II ended, and we've covered many of those films from that festival when they handed out like 8 to 10 top prizes or whatever in 1946
we know them, we love them.
And 1947. Exactly.
There's quite a few we don't
forward
quite
several
love.
decades into the future. 2002. At this Cannes Film Festival, they decide, hey, let's put together a jury of guys. Let's look through some of the films that were technically submitted, of which I could not find a comprehensive list, by the way. Because some of the, I have to say, I gotta call some of these guys out by name, and I will do that here.
So write a letter to your congressman.
Exactly.
These names.
A jury of 6 members, including Dieter Koslik and Alberto Barbera, excuse me, who they were not on the selection committee for that year, the 2002 Cannes Film Festival jury, which oftentimes has notable directors and stars and things like that. These guys were a separate jury made up of largely European film producers, people who are respected in the European film industry. They got together and watched only 7 of the films that were submitted in 1939. I could not find a comprehensive list of how many actually were submitted, but they watched 7 of them. So we'll just do basically the palm details up at the top here. Some of those films, the films that they watched were Goodbye, Mr. Chips, La Piste du Nord, Lenin in 1918, The Four Feathers, I don't know how to say this. Bohefi, maybe? Bohefi, The Wizard of Oz, and Union Pacific.
What a weird lineup of movies. Because I don't know if you knew, 1939, that year has like a crazy lineup of specifically American films, and the lineup of Best Picture nominees is like Ninochka and Of Mice and Men and Gone with the Wind. And the only Best Picture nominees from that list are Wizard of Oz, okay, fair. Goodbye, Mr. Chips, which I have seen and promptly forgot.
Sure. And so that jury of European film insiders decided to select that in 1939, people, the jury at the time would have selected Union Pacific, or at least that is what they selected as what would be the retroactive Palme d'Or winner for 1939.
Okay. So this is bullshit. So there's honestly a case, like if you had told me that oh, they did this, I would have been like, come on, guys. Like, did it really win?
My major thing is you didn't pick the Wizard of Oz.
Pick the Wizard of Oz.
You had the option to,
you had the option to pick the most famous movie of all time.
Or I had the opportunity to pick a more obscure non-American movie, give that a little bit of attention, bring a maybe less European filmmaker to prominence a little bit with a little bit of splash from 2002. No. We need Cecil B. DeMille's train movie.
Cecil B. DeMille's train movie, and thus beginneth we. Tucker, what did you think of Union Pacific?
Cecil B. DeMille begat this review.
He did. He certainly did.
Oh, well, do we want a summary?
Oh, sure. We should have a plot summary too.
The summary of the movie is that basically there's a couple of people they're building the Union Pacific Railroad immediately after the Civil War. They're connecting this great nation of ours and expanding westward. And there's some shady business dealings going on at the hands of one Mr. Asa Barrows, who is like all for the Union Pacific if you ask him, but then he's shortened the stocks on Union Pacific. He's bidding, but he's buying shares of the rival railway company that's also racing from the opposite end of the country to reach this, this sort of clandestine point where the two railways will meet. And so what he does in order to ensure that his stocks will be, that he will become a rich man and undermine the great Union Pacific Railroad, is he hires this guy named what is this guy's name? Not Dick, it's the other guy.
Campo.
Dick Allen isn't
Sid.
involved though.
Well, yeah, Dick Allen's yes, thank you, Sid. He's
Campo.
like, hey, listen, I want you to get people drunk. I want you to make sure these guys are having sex. I want to make sure they're gambling all the time. Slow down this railway with debauchery. That's what I want. And then our hero, our protagonist, Jeff, enters the picture. He's the troubleshooter, literally, for the railway to make sure that things get set on the right track.
Oh, very nice. Okay,
and there's a Miss Molly Monaghan involved. She's kind of in the middle.
Molly Monaghan's involved. She's the daughter of the engineer.
Let's be real. This is like a love triangle movie. The
Yeah,
background of it
is a love
is kind
triangle
of like,
movie.
they've got this debauchery and stuff. Like we see a little bit of that, and like there's some brawls, there's some scraps. But this is
Certainly.
a straight down the tracks Hollywood movie. Some romance, some action, some adventures, some rollicking music. I've seen with some buffalo in it. I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine. I don't think that it does anything specifically excellently. I'm certainly not going to think about these characters. I think the time period, the concept of this movie, the scenes that are set on trains. I'm like, okay, this sets itself apart in some ways that from many other films of this period that are part drama, part romance, part adventure. Like everything's kind of a stew of genres at this point in time in American film history. So there's some elements that set it apart, but nothing exceptional. I think this is like a really, really down the middle kind of thing. I will be interested to see if we're able to apply sort of the quest thematic cultural lens to this movie and get some more out of it, get some more juice out of it than I think maybe especially like the script of the movie might warrant, or the character development. I think these things are they're entertainment value, crowd pleasing, people that guys that are bad, guys that are hot, woman in the middle, like I don't know, what do you want to say? Like
you said guys that are bad, guys that are hot.
What's
as if
the
those are two
difference?
exclusive groups of people.
And I think it's fine. I don't know, I think it's fine.
Okay. Abram, what did you take away from this one?
Yeah, I mostly agree with Tucker. I mean, Tucker said it's a crowd-pleasing movie, and I, as part of the crowd, did feel pleased by it. I think it's quite good at like making the sources of conflict and our various tensions feel very clear, very legible in the story, and it's very good at nesting more conflicts in those. I like this broader political context and sort of corporate subterfuge going on here. I like the more interpersonal stakes that are raised by the reveal very early on in the film, that our cop and our robber are actually quite good friends. And I actually think that the craft of the movie is quite exciting. I think that a lot of the action, a lot of the model work, it is obviously we see through it now, but I think the four of us as great appreciators of the history of film look at some of that model work and some of the set pieces they put together, and I still think the craft of them is quite impressive. So I found it really involving. I think that by the time we're getting towards the end of the film, we've really run out of steam, but we still have a lot of plot, right?
Someone get
so I kind of
a shovel full of coal.
Yeah, so we get to the last 20-25 minutes of the movie, and I'm like, damn, there's actually still a lot that has been set up and promised that needs to be paid off, and we pay it off so quickly. And we reach the resolution that I think is obvious for this being a film of its time, but it doesn't make it any less unsatisfying in the end. And of course, there's just the other fact that like 100 years later,
it's a movie from nearly 100 years ago.
Yeah, and so like I'm not particularly sort of captured by the manifest destiny ideology of the movie, right? So I sort of watch it as a more shallow Western, and for that I enjoy it. But I'm with Tucker. I don't think it's really did anything that impressed me particularly acutely.
Tanner, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but I very much fall in line with you two gentlemen. I do think, especially as Abram called out, I think there are most significantly third act issues with Union Pacific that we can talk about. But like I find this this a fairly charming in its like it's classical Hollywood Western tropes and everything. I think was it Joel McCrea is Jeff. I think he's a great square jawed leading man, and Barbara Stanwyck, who's always a firecracker. Would have liked to have seen more of her, that sort of persona come through here. She is playing a different type of character than maybe we attribute to the Barbara Stanwyck sort of archetype in classic Hollywood films. But then there's just fun stuff in here. I like a quick draw. I like a good guy getting one over on the bad guy and foiling all sorts of plots and plans. And then I think especially as you enter the third act, I think there are plot departures and just branching sort of storylines that I'm like, this just feels like, again, we are, we're all going to be doing all sorts of train puns. So, again, pardon all the train puns, especially this one. But, like, it feels like we're really just delaying the pull into the station here. Like, can we just, let's just push through a little bit quicker here.
I'm in, by and large, agreement with all of you guys. Definitely, it is a romp. I think that there are a lot of, if you want to, like, take kind of, like, the macro construction lens of the film and like how its three acts work and how all the, like, as you guys say, the nested conflict and our characters that relate to each other and whatnot. I also think that the film has a lot of really, really solid like scenes, like the scene as the fundamental unit of a film, it being like the beginning, having just classic beginning, middle, end screenwriting inside of your scenes is not something that, is always so prioritized nowadays. And so I do find that gratifying to watch. And yeah, like
this could be clipped up so easily for TikTok.
It really could be. It really could be.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't really know what that says about anything, but I do know that I liked all the big set pieces. I liked, you say, all the model work, all the rear projection, all the process. I think that this movie is one of these like hidden special effects films, even though we know when the like, oh, we're in the studio and we're like bouncing the set of the train car around and out the window is the rear projection, but that's still very difficult to do. And some of the scenes, I think it's done in an even more invisible way that is really, really impressive for kind of foreground, background action. I'll say it outright. The movie's really, really racist when it comes to dealing with the Native Americans. We'll
talk about that segment because I think that it's problematic for a number of different reasons. So
the segment.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I see.
The butt of the jokes, killed with a smile and a laugh. Basically goes hand in hand with the ideas of manifest destiny that the film is proclaiming. Yeah. And I have just spent a week of my life learning how that's actually quite a bad thing for our history, and that the whitewashing and overlooking of it, especially at the hands of things like this, cultural pillars that go out and inform the nation about how to think about this big event, the Transcontinental Railroad. Really not doing a good service to our future civic selves by creating
are held up some decades later in the 21st century by paragons of artistry.
Like most of the facts about the building of the railroad are wrong in this film. Most of the facts about the treatment of the natives and the placement and all of that are wrong, if not just like morally reprehensible.
I had some questions about that.
And so what do we expect? It's Cecil B. DeMille. It's 1939. Like, I don't really, so I got gripes with it, but I also don't really blame the movie for it. This is how people with power and money thought back then, and they decided what was in this.
Here's where I'll start.
Yes,
we do our little Tucker Hazel likes to pick where we start here.
Go for it. Go for it, Tucker Hazel, who likes to pick.
I think that this movie was interesting for me to watch because I was trying to put myself in the mind space of a time period where the concept of manifest destiny, the idea of the continent in the east and west sides of America being the great nation being unified by this action of the nailing of the final spike, that kind of thing.
Yep.
When that was something that was like everyone was still kind of thinking about it, and it was still like alive in the cultural memory. And I was like just trying to think of like the time period of this. We see the year 1866 come up at the beginning of the movie. We're like,
yeah,
holy shit, what a long time ago. And obviously, it was to our minds, generations and generations ago. It's not possible for us to have known to be alive during anywhere close to that time. But Cecil B. DeMille, his father was a teenager when this happened. And so the connection there of the generation that you are raised by and the stories that you hear as a child, and you're imagining your Cecil B. DeMille growing up in the early 1900s and hearing these stories about how the nation is still was unified in my lifetime from his father or his grandfather or whatever. And his grandfather probably didn't work on the railroad, but might have been involved in some way or moved alongside. Maybe his family moved across the country because of this. Like putting yourself in the mind of someone and in the culture where this was something like that was exciting to learn about. This is why Westerns are so popular, sort of the middle of the 1900s. It's also for like easier to make in California because you got big open spaces and dry environments and stuff like that. But like, I think that it's interesting to think about it from that lens and why this might be so much more emotionally investing, and why you would be interested in a story that has this sort of backdrop and the political intrigue and the signing of this motion by Lincoln and how the assassination messed things up. Like this is, to our mind, comparatively ancient history, but it was alive in the culture at the time. And so I find that kind of thought exercise really interesting of just putting myself in a different mindset. It doesn't really change how exciting I found it, but there was a time when this was a super fresh concept, especially to be explored in a high budget, high spectacle, star-studded cast kind of movie.
Giving life to an important, fairly recent event in American history at the time. This is less than 100 years removed from this event happening. Basically,
about 70.
Yeah, far less.
So yeah, I mean,
if you want to think back to how what films from 70 years ago, this is kind of Korean War stuff, early Vietnam stuff.
Yeah,
that would be for us what like this event would have been for them when they made it.
There's a funny moment of filmmaking when we're doing like the Abraham Lincoln cameo as we see him signing Abraham Lincoln in this really close shot as he signed Declaration with law, whatever, I don't know what you call it,
whatever it was, but
whatever the hell
is it when he says I'd like to ride this railroad once I retire from the presidency.
and it's funny because that moment is like, it's like situational irony, because you see that name, and everyone watching this movie is like, well.
Well, and even in the next shot, it's just like the picture of him on the wall.
Yeah.
Right? But Tucker, I think you raised an interesting point, right? And what it makes me kind of wonder about, to connect this into what Timo was saying also about, obviously, the politics of the movie, is like, what is this film trying to capture, and what is, I think, it's successfully capturing. I think it is that ideology of going west and the American project, but also like the rugged American individualist going west. And I think that the fantasy of that is pretty clear in the film. And I actually think, again, not that I agree with the fantasy of this, but I think that the fantasy of it seems pretty awesome in the way that Cecil B. DeMille constructs it. I mean, we're going out here and we're gunslinging, right? If there's a dispute, we settle it on a quick draw. There's no legal process afterwards, right? I love this whole scene when somebody has ripped off another guy in cards and we kill him. And it's not, why do I keep forgetting his name? The main character's name.
Molly? Jeff?
Jeff. Because Jeff is not an exciting name. I think that's probably why I keep forgetting it. But Jeff goes over to the aggressor and takes the earnings, right? And he's like, we're giving this to the widow. And he goes, he's walking away, right? And we have this really exciting moment of filmmaking where he is faster on the draw than the other man, and we spin around and we kill him quickly. And
it's a great moment.
It's a great moment. It's an exciting moment.
You got eyes in the back of your head.
Moment.
No, I'm lucky you guys keep that mirror clean.
Good moment. Good moment.
Great
Well,
moment.
comedy.
Exactly.
It's a good moment, and I think that it's moments like this that go to sell this fantasy, right? If to Tucker's point, you're sitting there in the moment of like, man, what was it like out on the frontier? Well, out on the frontier, we're chasing bandits on horses, we're getting into shootouts at the saloon, we're going to conquer the terrain, right? This
Yes.
film is obviously goes to great pains to illustrate the man-made technology of the railroad, and we see them laying all the pieces of it very methodically. And it seems very impressive what they're doing. The engines are very impressive. It's all very impressive. And so, like, this is a very, I think, exciting blockbuster movie from that point of view. And I think that it does go to clarify and reaffirm the fantasy that a lot of people in the theater would have had at that time.
Mm-hmm. And I think the aspect of it, like we're talking about, that this is history, like living memory history, really goes to play to that identification, wanting to jump into this world, to be like, well, wouldn't it have been cool to have been with the tent of the hell on wheels, as they call it in the film, or the day that they laid 8 miles in one day, or whatever, however it goes. I think that whole, just because of the symbolism of this real life act and this real life moment of history of that promontory point, driving the Golden Spike, like this, well, it was taught very heavily in California state history when I was in 4th grade, because of not the Union Pacific, which drove east from Omaha. They started in Nebraska and was going west. The other one, the Central Pacific, the evil, the bad guys, the bankers and the stooges of this film are the...
Yeah, well, I guess no. Sorry, finish.
Well, they are going across the mountains to the west,
right?
And so it is important for just our like setting of the film that we are mirroring the path of expansion of Manifest Destiny going west with the Union Pacific. We couldn't, it could have just had it been a more California centric thing and gone with the other way, which was the harder route. But again, you couldn't have all these Irish characters cast because the Central Pacific used Chinese laborers as opposed to the Union Pacific, who used European immigrants from St. Louis and New York and the rest of the places across the country. So these people who were going to see the movie would have remembered all this. I assume. I don't really know. But I would imagine you remembered a lot of this history because it was happening and your parents talked about it, or, you had some relation. And half of the freaking towns they mention that are out there in those western Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, like these states. I don't think it's in Colorado, but like they were all made by this train. And all the people bought their land from the railroads who were given the land by the government. Don't ask where the government got the land from. It's not important, but
it was there.
It was just there for the taking.
What the hell?
No, definitely. I mean, the thing I wanted to bring up, Timo, and this is a point, maybe spinning into some of the characters and the plot machinations of Union Pacific is you said that like the Central Pacific Railroad is sort of pitched as like the evil guys, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention to all of this behind the scenes stuff that was going on.
The first 7 minutes of the movie where they just like talk at you straight.
The only evil guy is this Asa Barrows character who's underhanded. He'll shake your hand and say, "Hell yes, I'll get behind the Union Pacific Railroad. Here's my money, etc., etc. I'll sign your bill," or whatever it is. And then he gets with his conniving, skeevy little weasel assistant, and he's like, "What we'll actually do is we'll short the stocks on the Union Pacific and this, that, and the other thing."
Plan, sire.
Yeah. So we're not really painting we're not really painting either corporation, either railroad in a negative light per se. It's like, and then there's like some conniving businessmen who are always looking out for themselves and always looking to get the top dollar on these expansionist sort of these great missions that the Americans set out on.
Well, yeah, that's also like I think an ideologically interesting part of this movie, right? Because the villainy is this like corporate class who is pushing this other railroad along, but the real, true, awesome Americans are there because they're participating in this great cultural project. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about this fun scene when Jeff, again, we're not abiding the politics of the movie, but it's still a fun scene when we go do a little strike breaking, right?
We do a little
Yes,
strike breaking.
Yes, this is a very important scene to this point. Yeah, when he beats up Duke Ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this indicates why the movie works and why I think it obviously crumbles under a retrospective lens, right? Because we're here and this guy is, ultimately what he's doing is like protesting the fact that the other laborers haven't been paid for months of work.
It's really interesting because he kills the the overseer of this segment of track that's supposed to be, or they're doing the grade for the track is what these guys are doing. Yeah, they're building up a big mound.
That's
so
why
the track can be laid
they're
on
shovels.
top of it. Exactly. And so Duke Ring has killed the overseer of this project and is like breaking all the equipment and stuff before Jeff shows up.
Yeah, he's like trying to organize like a work stoppage, like kind of through the terror of his might as a scary striker, right? Mm-hmm. And it leads to, I think, what is a really fun scene as we have Joel McCrea in this very charismatic physical performance, really dog walk this much bigger guy in this a slapstick, really interestingly choreographed fight. He mogs the fuck out of him.
It's also one of the first shovel combat sequences I've ever seen in a movie. He uses that shovel in very interesting ways because he's also using it.
The shovel.
Well, it's like because it's a blunt weapon, and so he's like slapping the guy's butt. It's a long one, but he's also like using it to scoop dirt and spray it in the guy's face, and he's got mud on him, and like
he's like sticking it under his foot and like pulling it out from under him, making him trip over.
It's really creative. I like that scene quite a lot. Yeah,
yeah, and so like that to me, that is the level at which this movie works, right? If you don't take another step past the excitement, I think just of the way that the scene has been put together, pretty fun.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
To Tanner's point, what's being reaffirmed when you what are we saying about the culture of this moment? What are we upholding?
Yeah.
Well, boys, we gotta hold off getting paid for another 2 weeks, and then we'll be good.
Yeah. What's interesting there is that yes, he's like, oh, we'll all get paid. Don't worry about it. Don't you worry.
And
the corporation will come through and pay your wages. Yeah. But what's also, I mean, again, it's the exact like double face of this scene that you're talking about, Abram, is that like, on a plot level, on a script level, yes, this decision, this very smart, this clever move that Jeff makes, where he's like, I can't just rock up and like shoot this guy in a quick draw and dust my hands and get out of here. Like that is not going to solve the implications of what he is doing and what the fear he has instilled in all of these workers. It's not going to solve that. What he has to do, and what he realizes, again, this is smart in the script, he's like, I have to like humiliate this guy and show these people that A, he is not that tough and scary, and B, that he's not to be respected/feared. And that's what he does to get these guys back to work. It's like, that is a smart way to write a scene for your protagonist. And also, yes, if you take it that step further, like you're saying, quite evil that he's like, well, I can't just kill this striker. I have to humiliate him and get him, put the good old fashioned work ethic back in these guys.
Well, to do the exact thing Abrams said makes this movie worse, to take a step past the entertainment value. I think the only like thematic thing that stuck out to me, other than just the propagandistic American rah-rah kind of thing and the racism, is this movie has this really fascinating back and forth with what it values out of violence. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but like at the beginning of sequences, characters are like, no, like wait, we shouldn't like kill other people, and they're like, oh man, like
just go in and shoot that
like,
guy.
Yeah, that really sucks. And then every time to stop violence, they use violence every single time. Yeah. And the first time I picked up on this was there's this great long scene where on the really crowded train, and this guy, the one Native American person on a horse, rides past, and this guy takes his rifle off the top of the thing, shoots the guy dead, and everyone's like, whoa, and then Jeff rocks up and he punches the guy's lights out and knocks him off the train.
The bricks off this guy.
In that sequence, Jeff and Dick and Molly are all like, man, like, that's really unfortunate that he just shot and killed that random person. Like, that's gonna get us into further conflict and stuff like that. And it's like, man, like the implication being like, oh man, like just mindlessly killing someone or hurting them is not good. And then he solves that scene with violence. And then there's that scene where there's like the whole bar brawl and stuff. And then in order to like stop the whole thing, he boom and shoots the guy dead. And then he just moves on. Like the scene doesn't linger too much from that. Like there's just these moments where the movie goes through the cycle of like setting up that our characters aren't inherently violent people. They are not excited to be violent, But then every single conflict is solved with violence. It all devolves into a shootout or a punch out or the moment with the shovel, like, or a shovel out. You know, like
shovel off. Yeah.
There's just I don't really understand what the movie's perspective is on violence, because there's these moments where I'm like, I feel like it is trying to create, from our protagonist's point of view, that violence isn't the answer. But their actions do not match the words or the personalities that I feel like the movie is trying to cultivate.
Well, the real thing is that, you know, it's a classic Western thing, is that, like, the classic Western, this is maybe subverted, you know, later on in that cinematic tradition, especially in like modern neo-Westerns or whatever. But, you know, Jeff is our righteous executor of violence, and so it's only right when he doesn't.
Well, he is given.
It's only the smart move when
at the beginning of the film by you know the powers that be, the railroad overlords, they say we don't have civil law out here because we moving so fast. You are the law. You can do whatever you want to rein in injustice.
You say what's right.
You say what's right. And so I thought that to just all of these different aspects of this film that are like quintessentially American at its core, might makes right. And the unlimited authority and, you know, judge, duty, and executioner of being the lawman. And so it's like, you know, this is, as you say, you're correct in the assessment that, like, because he is placed in this role, and I think we could do this for all the other characters as well. The only one being the friend, that's Dick, right? His role is complicated because of the, like, you know, the not necessarily two-time, but like, are we friends, are we not friends dynamic that the film, that character plays upon. But the rest of them are all totally
comes down...
are filling in the roles that we already understand these Western archetypes to be in. Especially, I think, Barbara Stanwyck's character. Yes, Jeff, the cop, of course, is like that. And then
Jeff's
all of
the killer.
Yeah. All of our bosses and other kind of incidental side characters, all just pretty much like puzzle piece fit right into like, well, it's a Western, and this goes for many of the set pieces too. Are also like plug and play Western. We need something to happen, so Indians attack. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I actually think that's
I've got an idea. They're in the boardroom. I got an idea.
I got one.
I think that's a good thing to put a fine point on before we transition, maybe talking about some of those other characters. Just the point Tim was making about the Indian attack, right? And to Tucker's earlier comment about, like, when is violence permissible and what form of violence is permissible, right? When he beats the snot out of that guy and throws him off the train, what he did wrong in specific was that he killed this Indian rider for sport. And there's like even a line to this effect, right? Yeah. And what is this upholding? It's upholding this idea that the American colonizer moving west is someone who is more righteous and on a righteous mission.
From God.
And it's right. And it's these Native Americans actually who are the violent ones who are trying to impede that mission. So when they attack us, when they attack the train, well then it's free firing, right? But we can't do it first because we're not like that. So the film, I think, is very much upholding this traditional American idea.
Don't shoot first, but when you're attacked,
them.
just fucking go for it.
Which I will hold my peace if you let me just expound for. I will hold my peace about this. That is such a fundamentally wrong way. You know a wrong and dangerous way of setting up this relationship that ultimately caused 100 more years of harm and strife between these poor people that lived on this part of the globe before, you know, white European man came in and killed 90% of them with plagues, and then slowly but surely marched their way across the nation, you know, selling them guns in exchange for alcohol and, you know, kicking them off their lands. That's what the symbol of the railroad is. The symbol of more and more and more whites showing up to push what was their land fully. And so this is, you know, of course, pre the idea of these things as being violent acts, as like land grabs and taking the livelihood and killing all the bison without, like, it's not violence on the person of, you know, the Native Americans, the Indians, as this film likes to say, but that, like, that all of those acts in their sum total is tantamount to genocide on a group of people, and that this film is obviously quite in support of it. Most of American history is quite in support of this. The textbooks that our kids are reading in school nowadays are definitely not getting to the heart of why would you have a Native American tribe coming out to raid the train or to raid the encampment, or the real life event which closed the frontier for good, Wounded Knee in 1890, was a total uprising because they didn't have any food, and so they rose up to have something to eat because the feds weren't letting them eat, and then the huge mass execution
about that is that and we brought it up earlier, but Jeff does hedge all that scene that we were just talking about, where this random rider shoots the Native American who's just racing alongside the train for fun. Kills him out of sport or whatever. And Jeff says kind of two things. He has two kind of rebuttals as people are challenging him on this. Is that someone we're all waiting. Is that someone says, well, the guy that he's about to beat the brakes off of says, well, the Army kills Native Americans all the time. And he's like, that's not doing. The Army's not killing for sport. Is
no, the Army killing for profit, brother.
Exactly.
Which is better.
And the second thing he says is the violence begets other violence. It's like that guy you just killed, that just scalped 100 women and children and killed 100 white men or whatever. Which is this obviously twisted and racist version of violence only begets other violence. But again, is and maybe I was just thinking about it too deeply of that is what results in this this assault on the railway in the third act of the film.
Maybe,
but obviously the movie is not equipped to make that connection. No. It is not interested in making that connection, and ultimately what it wants is the classic Western thing of our white characters hold up during this massive assault where they can just gun down as many nameless, faceless Native American characters as they want.
Having the two questionably friend characters forced together, basically because of their race, they are forced to be friends again for a small moment, and as they vie over their conquest, Barbara Stanwyck's character,
the heart of the female, the love interest here.
They have to then fight off the hordes and are successful. Are successful when the good old boys of the Army come strolling in to blow them all up.
That's right. But my other thing about this sequence, about this third act sort of standoff kind of thing, is that I don't think even if you remove all of the the modern the racism from it, all of this stuff, the American exceptionalism, everything like that, it's just a sequence that stops the movie. Forgive again, train pun. Stops the movie dead in its tracks. So it was this is not a conflict of the movie that was set up beforehand, accepting the segment I talked about already. But this has never been an overt threat that we felt throughout. This is a movie that is a love triangle about corporate subterfuge, about Jeff versus Sid Campeau as this saloon proprietor who's trying to sabotage things. That's what the movie is about.
Those all seem to be rooted in the Hays Code.
A long time doing this. Yeah, exactly. We spent a long time in this segment where this movie's 2 hours and 15 minutes or whatever, and this could be a sub 2 hour movie if you just cut this out, but it is almost required of the genre.
Well, yeah, it's a trope thing. But I think where I will say that I think, to the movie's credit, in the conflicts that it does create as sequences, I think that is part of the environment, is the forward progress, the breaching of the unknown, the going into a wild territory, the putting down the tracks and building miles and miles every day. And one of my favorite elements of this movie, and what is the most interesting elements of this time period, this sort of concept, is the idea of the towns picking up and moving alongside it. And we're never staying in the same town twice. And people are going out to send mail down the tracks on a hand cart. There's this forward momentum, and the things that there's interpersonal conflicts that travel alongside it, but really that scene, and also the scene with the shovel fight and the scene in the snow, and all these things they have to fight against the environment to continue to make it forward. And so I think that, to me, it is part of the concept of the movie. The conflict of the movie is that as they're progressing forward, there's going to be these barriers. There's going to be things that pop out of nowhere because they're going into nowhere, and things are going to just kind of happen. I have to deal with it on the fly.
Yeah,
and so
I understand
it's
what
not
you're
a
saying,
setup and payoff in the traditional narrative or screenplay sense. It's more of, I understand it given the context of the conflict of the movie being the train and the people versus the untamed wilderness.
Even then, though, I do feel to say, like, we spend way more time on like this roadblock, quote unquote, than any other one, to the point where I'm like, you gotta shorten.
It really
does
to me feel like we're like in the film, like this film to me is in convo with Around the World in 80 Days and then The Greatest Show on Earth, which that's also a Cecil B. DeMille.
Cecil B. DeMille, yeah.
I think those two films, this one and Greatest Show on Earth, have these like the community that packs up and leave, like the train and the movement are like two
point.
very, very, it's like he's playing in the same sandbox, basically. But I will say, even though we're seemingly checking a box to be part of the Western genre, to be included in it, to have this attack, the setup for it is awesome. Like the chopping down of the water tower and yanking it out, and it hits the train and it causes it to
the model
is like
good,
really.
yes.
I mean, that thing was. Those had to be big models because the water and the steam and all of that doesn't scale like little bits of wood do, and so when it exploded, it looked quite good. I was
like the fire and the complicated like crushed train set that they're in, where like they're like climbing up onto like train cars that are toppled into other things.
I really shout out the problem solving of like the down telegram wire and then like sending a message with the rifle barrel and everything. Like, this is like good screenwriting, like clever stuff again. Like I'm talking about.
Maybe the biggest takeaway for this film is that the core of it, like you can actually include so much objectionable crap in your movie if the core of it is well written and smart.
Yeah.
Like that's the weirdest part about this whole thing. Go ahead, Abram.
Well, I think that the spectacle of this scene is important to what the movie is trying to do, and I think part of why you're going to see it. And so I think that it justifies itself insofar as the craft you guys are talking about, the scale of it, the amount of people that we have in this scene, the sense of chaos. I think it's all very effective on this more like visceral filmic level. But I also. I do think that there's a much better and shorter version of that whole exchange, but I do think that scene does also justify itself insofar as when we're wondering about what our characters need out of this story, right? Because we're thinking about Jeff and Dick. They need to reconnect, and so I think what this scene is doing, again, this also speaks to how I think the third act of the film just ends up feeling extremely quick and feels like it's functioning out of necessity more than it is functioning out of organic progression to storytelling. But we invent this very spectacular moment that reunites the two war heroes together and realigns them and points them towards the same enemy, which ends up being the bankers. It ends up being Sid. And so I think that that's what that scene is really doing here, if we're looking at it like from a character level. And I think it's effective enough, but again, I think it's happening very fast because we got to get them both back on side. But then we know that one of them has to die, or one of them has to exit the storyline somehow, because obviously Barbara Stanwyck needs to end up with someone that kind of has to be Jeff.
And
it needs to be the morally upstanding character of Jeff,
that is
right?
one of the funniest, most tropey things about this movie, is watching this love triangle happen. And the movie, I think, really poorly presenting it as a love triangle, because there's never a moment in which you actually think, like, genuinely that Dick is a sincere love rival for Jeff, because he's just a bad person, and Molly's like not that into him. She's like annoyed by him the whole time.
She's pretty open about the fact most of the time, except for one particular sequence, that she's like, I'm not really that into you, man.
Well, it's again, what are we trying to uphold? She even says, we are married, so it is what it is. I'm going to stick with you. But I actually love Jeff, right? And so and I think the way that this movie is working, right, is that I think that maybe we've even been perhaps misusing this idea of the love triangle, because it's really not that. Because what Dick represents, or the function he serves in the story, is he serves to put barriers between Molly
Jeff
and Jeff.
Molly, yeah.
Because there's this whole, I think, very actually quite tense scene after we've robbed the money car and we are in Molly's house on wheels, right? And Molly is trying to diffuse this tension and trying to get Jeff out of here alive. And ends up essentially acquiescing to a marriage to Dick to smooth that over, and then that gets sort of pushed forward into an immediate wedding, and she's sort of trapped with that choice, right? But then the rest of the movie has to work to undo that, because the marriage really only serves to sort of heighten the feeling in the audience of, oh man, I really wish that Molly and Jeff were actually together, but now the distance between them seems so much further apart. So then we end up killing Dick extremely unceremoniously in like the last 4 minutes of the movie.
No, it's like the last 90 seconds, because the last shot of the movie is when Jeff returns. She's like, "Oh my God, Jeff, you're alive. Where's Dick?" And he's like, "Well," and then she goes, "Huh." And then the movie ends.
Well, the actual last shot for our train master here is of a much newer train.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. That's a great
This
point.
whole movie, right?
Here we are today.
Product placement, ride the Union Pacific, Chicago to LA. It's like, so then they got the 30s streamliner, which we love to see. It's a beautiful train. I was loving it.
It's a beautiful train, isn't it?
Beautiful train. No, I was trying to bring this up earlier when Timo was talking about Dick. Yeah, as this character who, operates in a more morally gray sector than every other character in the entire film. Is like, he was a war hero. He is aligned with Jeff. They are friends, but he is now business partners with the ostensible villain of the movie, Campo, who is at the beck and call of the money interest, Asa Barrows, who's like, he's the one caught in the middle, and all he truly cares about is like marrying Molly, and he's very, very dogged in his pursuit and in his insistence that he's like, and clarity with Molly is like, I would like to marry you. Here's a wedding ring. Will you marry me? And she's like, maybe. Maybe not, though, because this guy Jeff's in town on the train now, and I'm kind of into him. And that never really boils over into a Jeff versus Dick kind of thing. Like, they're always sort of amicable-ish towards each other, I would say. To the point where, yes, they are realigned during this siege sequence that we've already discussed. And then Dick is also like the one who is actively, he's the one who like robs and takes the money from the money train and everything like that. And so, like he gets locked up and he's going to be hanged in the third act of the movie. And that results in, what is this? This is when, is that what leads into the Native American siege thing? Him like climbing back aboard the train and everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That leads into
they're like right after they get married, and then she like, oh, and go. She like tosses him out the window basically, and he goes, pew! And he just gets away so fast. And I'm like, how? There's people out there.
That's right. And then they patch they get each other patched up and everything like that, and sort of ride their separate ways on their horses and meet up again in this third act thing where it's, where the two trains are here and we got all the moneyed interests, all the CEOs of these railway companies are here.
And did you notice the CEO of the company is the governor of California?
That was very funny. But no, then you get this final moment where like, Jeff's going into town. He sees that Dick and Molly are together now. He's like, well, there's no place for me here anymore. The lady that I love is married. My job is done. I better wander off into the sunset and get a new one or whatever. And he goes into town. But wouldn't you know it, Sid Campo's in town, and Jeff doesn't have his irons on. And of course, this is all leading up to Dick goes into town as well. It's like, okay, well, Dick's gonna get shot by Sid, obviously. and then Jeff is going to have even more reason to kill Dick in that sense. But yeah, I mean, like my ultimate point here is that Dick ultimately must be punished for being aligned with the villain, and also B, being in the way of the protagonist and the love interest, the female lead of the movie, getting together. And so he must be killed for those reasons.
I feel like there's a lot of like motivations and plot movements that are that explanation. Like this must happen because we have these big meta rules about how characters can exist in the film.
Yes.
Like the heavy hand of the Hays Code is very present in this film, especially as, you know, it's like as soon as Molly and Dick are married, but we know that like the marriage act is like so sacred in film in this era of filmmaking that we have to undo that in order for the love interest that we want to happen and that we know is going to happen.
That was sitting so strong in my mind in
bad.
every romance sequence. I was like,
yes.
This can only end one way because I know what type of movie this is.
Which I'm like, you know, I wonder if you're a viewer in the 30s, do you interpret and understand this fact of do you notice that all of the characters who are good, you know, they go through their trials and tribulations and they come out good on the other side, or any character who does anything morally questionable ends up like piano dropped on their head? Like, do you notice?
do you care?
Do you
right?
care?
Because
I don't know.
There might not have even really been alternative options, alternative stories.
It's also such a monolithic... the Great Depression. So do you care? Like, it's a fun movie.
That's also true. Yeah, you want to have some fun with it. Yeah, it's an interesting time. Yeah, let's go back to the good old days. You know.
Yeah, self-imposed rules.
When movies were good.
There are people who say this.
I mean, is there any other segment of the movie that we really want? I want to bring up.
I mean, we should talk more deeply about Molly's character, because I do think Stanwyck is really doing the lion's share of bringing me into this film. And
let's talk Molly.
I don't think it's her best role, but I do think it's pretty funny. She, as we've been joking for a couple of days about her accent floating in and out. It very much does. It's like
so
they just should have
distracting
not done it at all. She would have been
no,
fine.
I agree. It's so distracting to me that it makes me hard to connect to her as a character. I'm like, this feels like a performance, and I know she's a talented performer, and I'm seeing like the emotion on her face, but the voice
is just.
I'm like, that's not how a person talks. There's no one with that accent.
they're like, I think I can maybe be charitable and like see an attempt or read an attempt at something that is unsuccessful, and that like, you know, she's the first generation immigrant.
Yeah,
like her father came over from Ireland, is what we're led to believe, and is an engineer. And she was born here in America and everything like that. So maybe there was an attempt at like, you know, she was raised in a Irish household, obviously. And so she has excuse me. So she has, you know, maybe it is this idea of like, you know, she is, she's a first generation. Maybe the accent just creeps through on certain words or whatever. But what Stanwyck seems to operate on as a very sort of rhythmic sort of performer is this rhythm of like a word or two in every sentence has to be with an Irish accent. And you know, if it were like thing where like, you know, it's implied then with the language that Molly pronounces certain words with an Irish accent, then that would be a different beast too. She's got like a sing-songy sort of way of like, and the first word and the third word or whatever are going to be with an Irish accent.
And that very same rhythm too, that you just intoned.
What I will say about her character that I do think works quite well and makes her a very unique character. Don't know if I've seen really a character like this in movies, though. I'm not super versed in westward expansion era films in terms of the time period they're set. But I really like this conflict that she has. It's not huge, but of the railroad being something that's so intrinsically tied to her lifestyle and her family culture, and her father being a very talented but not super high end, respected but not like rich, a conductor of trains, that she's lived on the rail her entire life, and that I like the line of like, I've never slept in a bed that didn't have wheels beneath it. Like there's just these little touches of characterization, of backstory that I think do pepper quite some interesting personality to her. And then there's this moment that, again, the movie's not equipped to deal with, but introduces some interesting sort of tension in her mind when things are coming to an end and the railroad is about to be completed, and she's like, how is that going to impact her life? Is she going to have to settle down, right? Is she going to have to live in a house?
She's got to move to Omaha, Nebraska, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But I think that those bits of of characterization of someone who was raised in this time period that's very foreign as a concept to us, but was something that could easily have happened. A child who was raised with a conductor for a father and who has never lived in one place for the entire time and just loves the westward expansion. I was talking about the fantasy of it. She lives this fantasy. It's not that she came from Boston and has a mother back home and is doing this for a couple years. This is her entire life, her entire identity. The community knows her really well. She's delivering the mail. She's making tea for people. She's like kind of a unifying force in the community. And the impending end of westward expansion, in some ways to her, though again, the movie's not super equipped to deal with this like pressure in her mind, but you can imagine a really interesting drama of someone who's like, how is this going to impact my life? Like my identity. It's a Train Dreams style
Well,
thing.
here's the thing, Tucker. Someone should make a drama about that. Someone should make a 60-hour-long Rockstar game about what happens when the West gets closed and people who lived a particular way before the closure of the West had to deal with that. But to make a serious point off of that, I agree with you, Tucker. I think that's a really interesting part of her character, and I think that this is a kind of an example of something that, in my mind, the DeMille and everyone else working on the project sort of assumes is background knowledge to the viewer of like this idea that the closure of the West represented a major inflection point in American culture and American identity.
Yeah.
And Timo can probably speak to this better than I can, how soon after the unification of the coasts, the West was considered closed. I'm not entirely sure.
There was like a day where the census or whatever, the government office was like, the frontier is closed, ladies and gentlemen. They like proclaimed it to be so. Now. There's a lot
end
more
of the broadcast day.
A lot of scholarly debate about other pockets of the country that have acted like frontiers and have not been. That took until into the 1910s to be closed or cleared.
My bedroom.
Tucker's bedroom. That is a wild frontier. I daren't go there, sir.
Don't let your women and children in here.
Tucker's got the damn whip that guy carries.
That guy's crazy. That guy's fucking goated at whip.
Are you talking about Fiesta? The very appropriately named Hispanic character, Fiesta?
Kind of an awesome character name, though. Fiesta? That kind of goes hard.
And he's great with the whip.
He's so good at the whip. Oh my God.
He doesn't hurt people with the whip.
That's all practical stuff, too. It's crazy.
He doesn't hurt people. He just uses it as a tail, essentially.
He's a... Also, I mean, I knew the answer, obviously, but I was like, there's no way that this guy is like an actual Latino actor, right? No, he's a Russian actor, actually, for anyone interested. And then, well, we talk about Fiesta. You got to talk about Leach if you're talking about Fiesta.
What a voice on that guy.
What a boy who's like this, like you like imagine like a dirty old prospector guy who's like, you got it. It's like, yeah, that's Leach.
That's exactly how he talks.
Well, they've got a fun character introduction also because they kind of show, because we are introduced to Jeff, right, as like the head of this detail to protect the expansion of the rail, right? And they're like, and here are your two bodyguards, and the two most schlubby, fucking dirty, haggard, weary-eyed guys you've ever seen in your entire life walk through the train car door, and Jeff is wearing like this pressed black like suit and a nice little hat. But these guys end up being real badasses.
Oh yeah.
And Leach is the one who gets he kills Sid. He's the one that gets the shot.
It's true.
On Sid
Jeff doesn't even kill Sid. It's Leach.
Is Leach the one that feels if the thing is real gold, and then everyone? Oh God, great shot.
Leach is the one who offers up the gold nugget.
I see.
He's that guy.
Sorry, I got that mixed up.
And they handed it to a even older, dirtier prospector to be like,
with even less teeth in his mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's that shot.
The shot. The great shot. What gold? Huh? What?
I just like the sound. I mean, if you want to, like, I would put that in like a canonized moment of rumor. right? Like the idea of a rumor being spread is something that is kind of difficult to do filmically because it's kind of like just the senses of it. Like we've all been in a, it would be like if you're in the dive bar and you hear that the next 5 minutes the bartender's giving out free whiskey, right? It would be the same. Imagine, but how would you shoot that? How would you film that? How would you make it feel like this information was spreading around when info is basically neither auditory or visual in its like physical? It doesn't exist. So how do you shoot it? This is how you shoot it. What an incredibly 100%. Well done little moment.
And that's an example of how I think Cecil B. DeMille's filmmaking was leagues above so many other filmmakers of that time, where he uses blocking in great ways. Where the moment that I really like is when everyone's sitting at the bar and they lean backwards. It's like fan.
But that's just how it starts. The next couple of shots are where we're quickly, flipping around in the room, and it's this like, I forget if it's hard cuts or if it's fades, but the audio is definitely not hard cutting, and it's like fading in and out and in and out of. You hear like gold, like all these. I mean, sounds like it must be 100 different characters are speaking various different, and all we need to know is the snippet gold end of tracks. Like that's it. And we know because what a classic way to get people to do things, but to play on their greed.
Yes, it's more funny, like clever problem solving.
Well, there's like a funny inverse, similarly spectacular moment, right, when we get all the guys with their pickaxes to come and destroy the saloon, right? And I think that it takes like a particular confidence as a filmmaker in that moment to know that the most interesting place to put the camera is actually on the faces of Sid and Jeff, and we just hear through really interesting sound design them totally ripping the place up. And so I think that works, and its restraint. I think it actually heightens the sense, your sense of what the fuck.
And look, you save like a whole like you save a whole like $75 on budget there, which of course is about $4 million today.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But there just are some good moments.
I think
in this movie.
What Abram you point out there is knowing the most interesting thing to put the camera on is the actors' faces, and this is over and over and over again. There's a lot of like cuts to, especially when we're in love triangle world, to Barbara Stanwyck's face as Jeff and Dick are battling it out. Battle of the minds and of the hearts and the minds as we reference her, and then there'll just be this like, there's a couple of them like big long shots where you have like a silhouette of a crowd, and her face is very bright in the frame, and because it's black and white, this is there's a lot of moments in this film where light and shadow are used very effectively to communicate. Like right at the beginning, I forget who it is that dies, but the shadow. It's Molly's friend goes gambling and is trying to be a stand-up dude. When the rights are and the final words, the letter, which I think this is was yet another just incredibly well constructed and conceived of scene, where she's got to make up the words to the letter to please this guy in his dying moments. We know how he dies because some grip or whatever puts a big shadow in front of his head, and he goes from being lit to not being lit, and then he dies, and you're like, I'm like, who's trying, like, it's so obvious, except that nobody does it, and so it's not obvious. It's brilliant.
On the Stanwyck point, I wanted to shout out one of the because like I said, she gets like her somewhat firecrackery kind of moments in this, to be sure, but the archetype she is filling is the what Tucker already pointed out, is this woman who, at the end, when the railways are united, her fate is likely to be a housewife or something akin to that. So she is a little bit more restrained, I suppose, in that
I
sense.
do have a question about her character.
She's also like the object of affection in a lot of ways too. But to shout out a very Stanwyck great delivery line is when Jeff, it's this big sequence in her sort of like her car or whatever, when Jeff is there and Dick is there, and Jeff suspects Dick is the one who robbed and everything. He's trying to find the money, and then these two other guys walk in, and Molly is obviously fearing for her life, or fearing for Jeff's life more accurately, that he's going to be killed. But when the two guys walk in, she hits him with, "There's no mail, I'm not making tea for the house, and we're not putting together a male quartet."
What does that mean? What's a male
Good.
quartet?
It's like a barbershop quartet,
Well,
but
guys,
with males.
like a barbershop quartet.
Oh, cool. I see quartet. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it meant 4 people delivering mail. I don't know what's going on.
Timo, you said you had a question about her character.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think about like her agency? This is something I'm always looking in at as for older movies with female characters. Like how much leverage and leeway does the film give her to make her own choices, or are her own choices seemingly made? And I agree, actually. Just to start it off, I think she's a fairly agentic character. She's able to do what she pleases for the most part, especially in the pushing back against the romance. I think that's a big kudos to her character. Her ability.
I gotta say though, like she pushes back against the affections of Dick for sure,
Mm-hmm.
or sort of placates him, and I guess is more probably more accurate.
Appease.
But like she's into Jeff. Like that's pretty soon after Jeff enters the movie. She's like, hubba, take a look at this guy. And Jeff is a little bit, he's a little bit less overbearing in his affections. Like he cares about Molly as well, but he doesn't want to like come right out and say it. Obviously, he's a little bit more couth in that sense, and more than Dick is certainly. And eventually, when he sees their romance, he misinterprets that Molly is more into it than she is, and that's why he backs off a little bit. Like she's always in pursuit of Jeff in some way until she gets married, and she's like, well, I can't be in pursuit of Jeff anymore because I'm married.
Of which is not her choice at all. She is basically
exactly. She does that to save Jeff's life. She is why she marries Dick.
So I think you could go either way, that she either was forced to make that choice or knew what choice she was making and did it for the benefit of this other man.
I mean, that is 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other kind of.
I think for me, it's more just that she's a more well-rounded character with her own life, personality, and lifestyle. And not that she isn't the object of affection, but she controls a good amount of the progress of the movie and the conflicts and things. And, and the moment when she chooses to, basically, as I said, push Dick out the window, like that is, she like leans over, whispers to him the plan, and then it goes forward. And she doesn't get any ramifications for that. I'm like, technically you just helped a murderer escape, but whatever. But
that action has consequences. Abrams right. She's told to like pack up her things and go as a result of being.
That's why she's on the train that gets ambushed.
Yes.
Okay. To be honest, I was like
postmistress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which I think is what they call her.
I will say, because I understand what you guys are saying about the accent point. I agree that it's not particularly great, but when I think about her performance, regardless of whether or not the script gives her a lot of latitude to control what happens to her, I tend to err on the side of Tanner that it's not particularly exceptional work there. But this is a film where a lot of the performances are extremely stoic. And a lot of the personas of these characters, these male characters, require that stoicism, or the sort of shooting daggers with the eyes, the body language, the sizing up of the other. And so when we're in a scene like when we have Dick and Jeff right after the robberies has happened, Barbara Stanwyck has a lot of latitude within the scene to really have a much bigger performance, and I think to bring me as the viewer a lot closer to that moment. I was mentioning earlier that ended up feeling quite tense and exciting to me. I think it's because we have this juxtaposition of these more staid performances against hers, where she is working to try and find an out in that moment, and it comes through in her physical performance, on her face, on the way that she positions herself in the frame, and the way that you can tell her being concealing of where the bag is and wondering what's going to happen, right? I think that there's a lot that is conveyed there that to me is kind of what I think about when I think about her performance, more so than the limp accent at times.
I think that scene basically encapsulates what Stanwyck's performance is doing to make me believe her character is more real and like her character much more than all the other ones. Like, she gives me so many more reasons to love the character.
Yeah, totally.
Joel McCrea, I gotta be real, he's no John Wayne, and so he doesn't give me these
That's a fair point.
these reasons to like this stoic, guns toting man of the law, like the morally upstanding man. Okay, is that fine? But like, give me something more. What's the strange backstory? Like, we just don't know anything about this guy. And same with Dick, that they were friends together and now they're not. Like, all the male characters are so thoroughly in their role in the film, like in the genre role that each of their character plays, that they just don't have any room to like be fun. Whereas Stanwyck's character as Molly Monaghan, she's got a lot of room to be fun. And like you say in that scene where she's trying to diffuse the tension, her method is basically being like, oh, geez, isn't this crazy? How about some more tea? Or like, the ways that the couple of different techniques she has.
She sort of defaults to this thing of being, a more stereotypically feminine homemaker kind of thing. Like she falls into that as a defensive measure for not even herself, for Jeff, exactly, to diffuse the violence of these men that is ready to unfold at a moment's
notice.
I
think you could make some discreditous reading of that's indicative of her character's lack of power. But I am gonna say that that is a humanistic and reasonable response to this very crazy moment of the scene.
I
am totally open to like those interpretations. I think they are interesting interpretations of that scene, of course.
There's also the moment in that scene where Dick and Molly are like, "What? Huh? What mailbag? Huh? What are you talking about?" And Jeff's like, "Mailbag? What do you mean?" And they are the most suspicious people that have ever existed on the face of the planet. And Jeff is like, And I'm like,
something might be up here.
I'm like, you can tell. You can tell.
Just know. Like the through the window bit, right? And he's about to leave, and then he looks up at the window, and I'm like, come on, man, you're the lawman, and you didn't notice that first thing when you walked up, that this building you apparently hang out at all the time has the window broken through.
What was I gonna? Oh, my closing point on Stanwyck is that, like, she's one of the most magnetic performers to ever, grace the silver screen. So there's a lot to chew on with her character and her performance, even if you can go back and forth on like the scripting and the writing of it. Like, she just brings so much verve and life to even a character like this, that, like, though I would say none of us would argue against the point, like, she has had better roles and better characters that serve her personality and her star power better. The only other point that I wanted to bring up is just a quick one. Yeah, no shit, laying the track on snow was a bad idea.
Dude. Oh my god.
Who thought that was gonna work? Obviously, that was not gonna work.
I mean, I assume something. Kim, do you know, did something like that actually happen? Are they that fucking dumb?
I'm better versed on the other side, the Central Pacific's crazy antics of building the train. So I don't really know. I doubt it. That's like, a train weighs like 100 billion tons, okay? And so snow, as we know,
it's all iron, and they load it up with coal
and water also.
And also miscellaneous goods and services from the east.
Exactly.
And so,
so I was just like, God, that's
when they said that, I was like,
too.
I can't believe it. That moment,
it's like the one idea that Jeff has that turns out very poorly.
But the moment is there's no
bridge
pushback.
Immediately collapses.
Like, oh man, it's cold and it sucks, and like, you can't get through the mountain. He's like, why don't you just like build in the snow? And everyone's like, oh, what? Huh. Well, I should go try that.
No, because they're like, that might be like, because everyone's like, everyone knows you can't build track on snow. He's like, but what I presuppose is, what if you did? And everyone's like, by Job, Jeff, you've done it. You've inspired us to build tracks on snow. And then Molly's dad dies, and the train gets blown up or whatever.
Well,
and everyone's like,
because
oh.
The construction of that set piece is funny, because I was like, oh, they're gonna just build the tracks on the snow, and then the train is gonna push the tracks through the snow down to the hard ground. But what they're actually doing is they're building in the snow on the side of a fucking mountain. Right?
right.
The problem is not just that we're on top of snow. The problem is that we're on that fucking decline.
Yeah.
Yeah. we've propped up a bridge with like 7 sticks, and we're like, all right, run the train over it.
And also, he's basically proposing they do the work twice. He's like, go around the mountain, and then dig the tunnel. It's like,
exactly. That's the issue, is that they're like, we can't. This is going to take forever if we have to, drill a tunnel through this mountain. He's like, just go around the mountain, and then some guys later will go through the mountain.
I hate to be so pedantic about this, but like there are well, I guess they did have to go through the Rocky Mountains, but like the other side, the Central Pacific side, was entirely tunneled. Like that. The whole story of why that was so hard is because they were going through the Sierra Nevadas, and it was extremely vertical and tons and tons of trestles and long tunnels. But I did pull up a map just to remind myself of like where these things went in the country, and in Wyoming they did have to go through some pretty hefty mountains, the Rockies. So probably this is out of something. I mean, by the time we get to the end of the movie and we have wrapped up all of the like main plot points, which I would basically describe to as the we've got to murder the bad guys so that those problems are solved, and then we've got to marry our female character so that success is won. But then there is still time left in the movie, and so then it had to have there was like 4 scenes of denouement in which we've got to both wrap up the construction of who won the railroad. We've got to like do the whole Avengers Endgame bit of Promontory Point, wherein all this like this famous picture as recreated for the film, of course, kind of things that are just like, I'm not begrudging that they're in there. I am begrudging that they were seemingly nailed on to the back of the film without really having much relevance to the plot or the character. The characters are like there, I guess, or not. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like.
This is like also some real quest analysis of this movie at this point, but like I just thought of it because it's like we kill off Molly's dad, the engineer, in this scene where the train collapses under the snow. When we kill him off for the purposes of Jeff basically eulogizes him. He's like, well, it's all for the purposes of Western expansion and corporate interest. Basically, let's keep it pushing. To that end, we also didn't talk about this segment where Barrows gets his comeuppance, and you think that he, in the sequence with Fiesta and Leach, who again pop up, who they're kind of like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of this movie, where they get like their own little side adventures, including kidnapping this very important businessman and being like, all right, you're gonna like go out and hammer railroad ties as your punishment for being an evil businessman, which we discovered somehow along the way.
I'm sure that Jeff finds out at some point. He was told by one of the guys.
But he's like, Fiesta and Leach will handle this.
That just is the final like redemption of Dick, because he says as they're parting ways on their horses.
Oh yeah, that's
by the way, you don't want to go after Sid. Sid is funded by Barrows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then it's not our protagonist that gets to shoot down the corporate businessman. It's the 2 funny characters who get like a silly punishment for him, which then comes around to just like further a bit at the very end of the movie, where he's the one who successfully hits the last railroad tie. And everyone's like, yeah, he did it, but we know it's because he went on a silly adventure with Fiesta and Leach that cured his like sciatica or whatever he says.
Bizarre.
Ready to put a score on this guy?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I should put the score should be the number of miles of track they laid in one day during that record breaker.
Whoa.
Be a pretty good score.
Actually, yeah, I think it would be more than I'm gonna put in right now. Okay, you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. There we go. We got a score. It is a tie. We're going to have to litigate a little bit here, but the number is 5.8. The point breakdown is that I gave it a 4.5, the lowest of the 4. And then Tanner and Abram both gave it a 6 flat, and Tucker gave it a 6.6. That averages as you may figure, to 5.8. 5.8 has two other films of the same score that we need to figure out where it goes to. One of our favorite movies to discuss of all times, because we've done it so many times.
True.
That would be Triangle of Sadness.
If you look on Letterboxd, it's one of the films that I have logged the most.
Triangle of Sadness.
Unfortunately.
Or Friendly Persuasion, who I'm drawing a sort of blank on who was in that, but it was Gary Cooper.
That's
and
Gary Cooper.
Oh, that was
right?
the Quaker one.
Yeah.
That was the Quaker
Yeah, the
Civil
Quaker
War.
one.
Exactly,
Yep.
the
So
Quakers.
we kinda
I was
got
trying
like
to- I was going to say Amish, but they're not
We got a
Amish.
pre-Civil War and a post-Civil War, and then a soon-to-be Civil War with Triangle of Sadness.
Well, yes. A class war.
Triangle of Sadness, more entertaining movie. Also annoys me way more. I would go Union Pacific, I think.
I'll go Triangle of Sadness.
I'm gonna go Triangle of Sadness. Tanner, what do you think? Are you?
God, one of my favorite moments of the week when I put Tanner in an awkward situation.
in the think tank?
I'll go Triangle of Sadness. Why not?
Okay,
I've
There
seen
we
it
go.
4 times. How many times have I seen Union Pacific? But once.
but once.
Not but once.
But once,
Yes.
dearie.
Not but once.
Oh, don't catch me doing the Irish accent now.
There's certainly a film that is more racist and problematic, and that's definitely Union Pacific.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you can levy at Triangle of Sadness, but it wins out in that.
It does win out in that battle. Yeah, by and large, I think I enjoyed Union Pacific, though. I guess if we're settled here, then I'll announce the placement number 62 on the list, Union Pacific, below Triangle of Sadness and above Dumbo. Of similar, those are similar age. No, Dumbo's from the 50s, right? I forget what year that one's from.
1940.
Okay. No, okay. Yeah.
Well, no, sorry, it'd be a 46.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it'd be
what am I
46.
thinking? It'd be a 46.
A 7-year
Yeah,
apart.
the 7-year apart, directed by Wilder.
Shut up.
Okay.
Wheel time.
Let's spin the wheel. Let's.
Oh shoot! Hang on, I gotta pull up the list. One second,
Oh.
gentlemen. Vamp for me, would you?
Well, I'll vamp
I-
here and say that Union Pacific, while great train action, I can't abide. I can't abide by a movie with dangerous ideologies such as this one. Even though, I don't think much has changed in our country. You got the list, Tanner? I shouldn't go in too much.
I got
about
the
it.
list pulled up now.
Okay.
Okay. Only 25 movies left on the list, gentlemen. Well, technically 26, but Fjord is a recent winner that doesn't have theatrical release yet here in the States, so we don't count
We don't
it
count
yet.
it. You ready?
Okay. Yes. Wheel, what's your deal? Give us a movie that makes us squeal. Is it on digital or is it on real? Wheel, what's your deal?
Mm-hmm.
Choo-choo.
And the wheels deal is number 5.
Ooh, another far back
Another
one
early
here.
one.
Huh?
Another early one.
Another early one. We're going to be going back to the year 1951 for this
Okay.
one. I recognize this director's name, but I'll first tell you that it's a film that stars Paolo Stoppa, Francesco Golisano, and Emma Grammatica. This is a film from the nation of Italy. It is directed by Vittorio De Sica.
Okay.
Ever heard of him?
Mhm. No?
This is Miracle in Milan.
Milan.
Miracle in Milan. Okay, and do you have
Yes.
a small synopsis or a log line for us that you can share?
I got a longish kind of synopsis here for you on Letterboxd. Well, I'll just give it to you. Once upon a time, a wise and kind old woman discovers a baby in her cabbage patch, a cabbage patch kid, if you will. She brings up the child, and when she dies,
She
the
beat
boy
the child. Freudian slip, Tanner.
What did I say?
You said beat.
Oh, I say, sorry. She brings up the child, and when she dies, the boy, who is named Toto, enters an orphanage. He leaves the orphanage a happy young man and looks for work in post-war Milan. So kind of a
He ends up
cradle to
homeless
grave,
and
or
organizes them to build a shantytown in a vacant lot.
Well, yes, I cut it. I was like, is this going to give us the whole plot of the movie? I don't know.
Oh, there's a shantytown. Okay, I stopped. This is on Criterion Channel, so it's going to be nice
it
and high
is.
definition.
Great.
And HBO Max for those who
you're nasty.
who want to pop over to the old Zaslav tab.
The Zaslab.
The Zaslav tab. Okay. Okay, Miracle in Milan next week. Looking forward to it. Thank you guys for the discussion today on Union Pacific. I don't got much else, so write your thoughts on this movie down in the comments. Were we right? Were we wrong? Did you watch it in theaters and thought that we just completely missed out?
I honestly would love to hear from you if you've seen this film in theaters.
I mean, I'm sure. Well, I don't know actually if it would have shown in theaters because like we found like one crappy rip of it. Like this doesn't seem to be particularly well circulated.
No.
Nope.
We must thank the Russians for their continued dedication to archival film preservation. Okay, Miracle in Milan next week. Write your comments, subscribe, like all that fun nonsense, and you know what I say: stay cool, keep warm, peace.
The other thing I didn't realize about Mignonese, they are like it's like a mishmash of all kinds of different languages.
Yeah,
they say Dua Lipa too at one point.
They say banana.
They say. I mean, I remember specifically in Minions and Monsters, they say Konnichiwa at one point.
They don't say Al Qaeda.
They might. Pierre Coffin might sneak it in there.